Nothing politicians do is which won't have electoral benefits for them. Obviously, they will do such things. Right now, this seems to be more of a fight of southern states against delimitation. That is how the narrative so far has gone about.
Yeah.
Even northern states begin to do population control. They are relatively slow in doing that.
Hello and welcome. I'm Srinivasan and this is Talking Sense with Srini. We're discussing delimitation as the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Mr. MK Stalin, hosted the first Joint Action Committee meeting against the central government over its delimitation exercise in a massive show of strength. Joining me to discuss more is our Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Srinivasan. So thank you very much.
Yeah, hi.
Let me begin with you. What's your big takeaway from this particular meeting here in Chennai?
It's a very significant meeting. Once again, Tamil Nadu has taken an initiative. As you know, in the past also on some national issues, Tamil Nadu has taken initiative. Its Chief Minister has organized meeting in Chennai. This time, Stalin has done the same thing on the issue of delimitation. What he is trying to actually portray from this is southern states have a huge disadvantage and therefore the centre should relook at the whole way this delimitation, which is proposed to be done after 2026 census. Of which there's no date been announced. That's his main plea. And it's not just southern states. Also, he had invited a state like West Bengal and there was a representative from Punjab. So he's generally looking at all the states which has lower population as compared to those which have higher population rate and therefore likely to get more representatives in the parliament if the current way of delimitation, which is purely population based, continues.
The resolution in today's meeting calls for a status quo for about the next 25 years. So, I mean, do you think that's a fine solution there for this crisis?
It's been frozen for 50 years. The first freeze came as a 42nd amendment. Then the second freeze came after 84th amendment. And now the states are, at least the resolution passed in today's meeting is let's freeze for another 25 years. I think this was one issue which many observers and others were saying that better postpone it. The idea behind this is let's go back to 1971. What was the idea of freeze at the first place? The idea was let's control the population. The expectation was that there will be even the population growth will be even, which was too much of a call and it didn't happen. Again, when it was noticed second time in 2000, the year 2000, it was again put off for 25 years. So the feeling now is that let's wait for demographic equivalence to come across, at least some balance could come in India, and after which delimitation exercise could resume. I mean, that's the thought behind that idea. Now, if you look at overall growth rate, what is happening around India is that as a nation, we are now almost at 2.1. The overall population growth rate is at 2.1. And if you look for southern states, it's below replacement, which is 2. So it is at 1.6 to 1.7.
1.4 as well sometimes.
Yeah, so it's much lower. So that's where the disparity, because some of the northern states are above, in some places it's even 3. So the expectation is the next 25 years, it would even out. And maybe the difference may not be that big, but then, it could be much lesser. The difference between north and south. I think it's not it's not such a bad thought, because even northern states begin to do population control. They are relatively slow in doing that, but certainly this process has begun in the north as well. That's why you see the overall India's rate is at around 2.1. Which is the kind of a desired, but this is average. The average is coming at 2.1 because southern states are low and north is high. So the average is 2.1. So it's the kind of averages which is not a good it's a kind of a revenge of averages. So we can't go by that. The expectation is that genuinely some northern states will be able to reduce their number, and it could be even across India.
Critics argue that this particular meeting today has been sort of strategically planned, keeping the 2026 elections in mind. Do you think so?
Well, of course, the opposition will make such a remark saying that it's purely an election agenda. But there is a merit in that. Nothing politicians do is which won't have electoral benefits for them. Obviously, they will do such things. But there is a larger issue here as well which need to be considered. That alone cannot be a counter explanation or a counter to what DMK is trying to do. Because look at the facts. If you notice, the census should have happened in 2021 in normal times, but due to COVID, it was postponed, and now it is due in 2026. And the delimitation is now should happen after the census of 226, the first census after 226, because if you remember, delimitation was postponed twice for nearly 50 years, and the last one kicked in during Vajpayee's time. And that time period ends now, which was in 2025. So after 2026, any census after that delimitation should happen. So if you see these time periods, there's only 1 year left. And if you go through all the discussions, it's a pretty complex issue. And I don't think personally that it's a little early, because you need to discuss, take into consideration all states, and thoroughly discuss all issues related to delimitation. See, delimitation is not restricted to just head count, number of people in a particular state. India is a pretty complex state in terms of its population, demography, in terms of its economic development, also local identity, which is pretty much mixed in some places with language as an identity. So lots of layers in that. And then there is also now a new one which has come in the form of majoritarian versus other things. So there are a lot more complexities involved. And therefore, there must be a discussion, and this can't be done in a short period. So I think it's an opportune moment in which DMK has raised this. But yes, of course, I won't deny that they don't have motives behind doing this.
That's right, sir. But we've heard very little from the Bharatiya Janata Party, the horse's mouth in this case, right? So, there is very little talking except for the fact that Home Minister Amit Shah has allayed fears that the South won't be losing any seat, right? So, I mean, do you see this as the India bloc is sort of jumping the gun?
No, again, see, Home Minister, he made this statement saying that the state should not fear they won't be losing any states. But then that's not the only explanation. He also could have made it clear that in what way they won't be losing. See, it is true that his statement may be ultimately true. They may not be losing. But then he didn't say anything about whether the states in the north will gain more or not. Mm-hmm. That he hasn't said. So there is always a possibility that Tamil Nadu maintains its same level or slightly increases, but then states in the north increase their seats much more. Mm-hmm. Eventually to a situation which is what they're worrying, that the balance of power would shift further towards north, and midway electoral win in parliament could happen. I mean, the 50% could come barely from 5 or 6 northern states. So that is their biggest worry. So that's why they're raising this issue. So I think BJP or its leaders or cabinet colleagues of Prime Minister like Amit Shah, if they had made these issues far more clear, it would have been better. I think it has been left partly hanging. Therefore, there is a bigger, concern here in the southern states.
That's right. We just came from the press conference of KT Rama Rao as well. What happened after the meeting, where he said he called delimitation exercise a travesty of justice. He called the central government is playing the role of a big boss and not the big brother. Very strong statements that's coming in from the BRS working president there. But he also proposed a radical move, what he called a delimiting based on fiscal contribution. Do you think it's a logical, practical solution for this?
Yeah, so what he is trying to say is that look, 36% of contribution in the total GDP of the country comes from southern states.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's his contention. Therefore, he says, let me suggest a radical idea. Why on population? Why this and that? Why not just basis on the contribution of a state towards its GDP? I think again, he himself says a radical formula. I think it's just a political formulation because you cannot take fiscal consolidation alone as one criteria because after all the states are interdependent, and the growth happens when the states grow. Even if you take one state doesn't make anything. The raw material come from some state, manufacturing are in some other states, and India is one nation. I think these kind of arguments doesn't work. There needs to be equality of power, the equality in democracy, but then even there should be once you're talking about democratic power sharing, you need to also talk about financial equality. So the states which are kind of laggards, they certainly need a leg up. They need a push. Somebody need to lift them, and therefore I think rich states contribute. There is nothing wrong about it. I think they should do so that because India is not an even country. The development is uneven. The progress is not even. The educational growth is not even. The health is not even. So there are so many uneven things in this country. So this cannot be a only criteria. A far more thought out solution need to be found out.
We also heard Mr. Revanth Reddy, the Telangana Chief Minister, and Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan, the Kerala Chief Minister, accusing the central government of not letting the states express what they feel, and the centre generally tends to go on what they actually think, right? There's no much larger say for the states, he says, on federal issues. Do you think there are merits to this statement?
See, what has happened is many states, non-BJP states, which includes even West Bengal and the southern states, are having constant problem with the centre over federal issues. They all seem to perceive that the centre does not pay heed to their voices. And this has been a constant complaint. In the past you have seen about governors. States constantly complaining. West Bengal complained.
That's right, yeah.
Kerala has been complaining. Tamil Nadu has been complaining. Even they had a governor had a tiff in Delhi, Lieutenant Governor, and then even in Punjab. So that was one issue which they have been constantly raising. And then now Tamil Nadu has raised this language issue, the new education policy. And Tamil Nadu is particularly talking about two-language policy. And the federal issues of devolution of funds, there has been several states which have been raising their voice, which is Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka. So what has happened is there is multiplicity of issues in which the states seem to have certain grievance against the centre. What has today actually happened is that they have trying to find some kind of a common ground, and delimitation, at least for the southern states, seem to have come as one common ground on which they can raise all these issues, under which, as you heard in the discussion, they also brought out that the issues related to federalism, issues related to devolution of funds, and also the
national education policy,
and issues related to governance like a governor and all those kind of things. So basically, delimitation has now come as a common ground, as a larger focus for the southern states.
We also had Mr. D.K. Shivakumar, the Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka, expressing a solid support for the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister MK Stalin. But we are also getting to hear these reports from Northern India that the DMK's allies, including the Congress Party, they're quite uneasy about Stalin's clarion call against delimitation exercise. So you see a very sort of a fragmented fight against delimitation going forward.
See, right now this seems to be more of a fight of southern states against delimitation. That is how the narrative so far has gone about.
Yeah.
Congress is pretty cautious about it. Their own party members in the southern states are taking position against delimitation. That's why D.K. Shivakumar was there in today's meeting.
Yeah.
But the same changes differently when they are in the north, because they don't want to be seen this as an issue where they are going against the interest of people in the north. Because the biggest issue if the South is complaining that, look, we have done better population control, and therefore, we need to have better say in power, and therefore better say in parliament. If that is the argument, the counter argument in the North is, look, we are not able to give equal representation to people, because the number of MPs who should have ideally be not, be taking care of should not be elected on a population of more than, say, 7 to 10 lakhs, is in some constituencies over 30 lakhs. So they are saying, how do we govern that? I mean, we need to administer those states better, and therefore it is a requirement. So it's a counter argument from that side. So basically, the Congress party or a national party like even BJP, of course, BJP has taken a firm stand on this. The Congress has a problem kind of articulating the two different viewpoints. So I think what they have done is, the central party or the High Command in Delhi has is remaining or chosen to remain silent, whereas those their representative in the South are vocal. That's why you saw one Chief Minister Revanth Reddy, one Deputy Chief Minister coming and speaking and attending this meeting.
That's fine. Thank you very much, sir. Very insightful talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.